All right, everyone. Welcome again. I'm excited to talk to you about your journey here at Reborn Pelvic Health and Wellness. I have a graph here on the screen so you can follow along. I'm going to orientate you first. This is your story. Obviously, your story is going to be a little bit different than this, but on the bottom axis here, we have time. On the side here, we have optimal on the downside and suboptimal up here. This first dotted line here is symptoms. This next dotted line up here is treatment. And so here you are going along life and some events happen. Those are these circles here. Let's say maybe you have a kid and you have a little bit of leaking and then it gets a little bit better as time goes on. Then you have another kid, nothing happens, kind of stays the same, maybe gets a little bit worse. Then we have kid number 3 and you're like, oh my gosh, I've had enough of this. I want to get like this taken care of. So then you come to Reborn Pelvic Health and Wellness and you start getting better and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So this first section right here, section number 1, is the figuring it out phase. And in this phase, we're seeing you a couple times, 2-3 times a week, you're really figuring out what are all the underlying things going on that are causing your symptoms to manifest and what kinds of things do we need to do to get rid of that. And so really treating the root cause. As you get through that phase, then you're going to transition into phase 2, which is from here to here. And phase 2 is resolving your symptoms and really getting rid of whether it's low back pain, pain with intercourse, leaking when you're running, whatever that is, you're going to be on that journey with us. We're going to figure things out. We're going to get some symptoms down. Then you might flare up a little bit. Then you'll come back down. And then you might add a little bit too much. You might start running. You're like, oh, still leaking. Let's reroute slightly. Plan B here. Oh, yep. Now we're ready to run again. And then you're going to keep dropping and dropping and dropping until you're below this symptom line here. And so this phase here, we're typically seeing you same time, a couple times a week through phase 1 and phase 2. Then once you hit phase 3, which is building resiliency in your body a lot more, we tend to drop down your sessions maybe once a week, once every other week, kind of space them out a little bit as we're adding back things into your life, whether that's running or jumping or having intercourse again and being able to do that without pain. You're going to feel good. And then what happens if like life gets really stressful, a major event happens in your life, you might flare up a little bit or have symptoms kind of pop back up and come above that threshold line here. But then what we want to do is we don't want to stop here. This is typically where traditional therapy stops, is when symptoms are gone. And it's like, wait, let's keep building resiliency so you can keep working. And we want to monitor you through that as you're adding those things back in. So then when you get down to here and you enter this 4th phase, where we like to call it the optimal vagina phase, where you can live your life fully and you don't even have to think about your pelvic floor. You're doing everything you want to do with dry pants and all that fun stuff. When you have a flare, so to speak, or you have stress in your life, or things get a little bit haywire, or maybe you slip on ice, like it doesn't flare up all your pelvic symptoms. Your flare is subclinical, what we like to call it. It's below threshold. So you don't even know. You're like, yeah, I'm still good. And then you rebound right back down. We want you to live and stay in this optimal vagina phase. That's kind of where we want you to be. So what we want you to do for homework, even before you come in, and you can discuss this a little bit with your therapist. This is really helpful in learning your story, both personally for yourself and then for us to know kind of what does this journey look like for you. And then you can reflect back on that of like maybe, oh yeah, I forgot that I had this ankle sprain a long time ago, or I had this knee injury over here. Most likely any sort of injury that you've had or a surgery plays a role in your pelvic health. And so we want to know about that information. So what I have down here below is a blank graph where you can just line out your symptom line, your treatment line, start drawing your graph, and then start drawing your recovery after that. So you can go ahead and do that. It's not mandatory, but definitely can help with your journey here while you're here. And then I'm going to pull up another screen and we're going to kind of flip this graph a little bit of what happens at this point once you come in here and we start really ramping things up from a physical therapy standpoint. So this is the 4 stages of recovery. And this is that last, like once you start coming to therapy, we've just flipped this graph going in an upward trend because we want positive energy here. And these are the 4 stages of recovery. So first stage of recovery is this black box right here. That's usually those first few visits in there is we're decreasing pain, we're getting that inflammation out, we're figuring out what's happening, and really diving deep. And then once we transition into that, we start moving into strength, mobility, flexibility, and restoring all of that for you. And that happens a little bit further out in your visits. And then after that, we start building that resiliency again, like we showed in the other graph, and returning to that normal activity, adding things back in, monitoring you, making sure things are good. And then this 4th phase is that optimal vagina phase on the other graph, where we're in maintenance and prevention mode, and we're just optimizing things and maybe even athletically pursuing some things you never thought you'd possibly be able to do. So this is just a snapshot of what your journey is going to be like here with us in Reborn Pelvic Health and Wellness. And we can't wait to get started with you. If you have any questions on these phases of treatment or where you're at or how your story fits into your journey, please don't hesitate to ask your therapist. They can walk you through and kind of tell you, like, this is where you're at in your phases. This is what we're working on. And we'll make sure that you understand everything that we're doing. See you tomorrow.